I can think of a few echo chambers on YouTube that have built a channel almost exclusively on saying that universal audio is outdated, that they're not innovating, and that they'd never make native plugins. Well, if you've clicked on this video, I'm sure by now you know they've just done that very thing. The day has come, we finally get to talk about UAD native plugins. Now, I've got mostly good feelings on this, really no bad feelings, and we're gonna be getting into the nitty-gritty on everything you need to know about UADx, UAD Spark, whatever you wanna call it. At the end of the day, it's just UAD native plugins. If you're new to the channel, my name's Steve Kinney. I'm a producer, engineer, and content creator, and largely my channel has been dedicated to UAD, Apollo, and all things Luna. However, we've got UADx to talk about now, so we're definitely going to be diving into UADx on this channel. I know a lot of you are probably clicking on this video because you've never used UA before, and this is your first experience with it, is these new UADx plugins. So welcome to the team. Glad to have you here. I think you're going to love it. While you're here, please do me a huge favor and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more. Leave a comment below, let me know what your thoughts are on the new UADx, and if I miss anything in this video, share it with the community. All right, guys. So what's the big deal with UADx anyway? Why is this such a big deal in the audio community? Well, historically speaking, UA obviously has a storied history with high-end audio, and the 1176 is probably one of, if not the most famous compressor ever. When the company was refounded in 1999, they ended up diving into digital audio and eventually developed UAD1. This was a massive step forward. Computers just didn't have the power back then to run endless amounts of plugins, so having a DSP chip to accelerate those processes really made a big difference in the high-end studio world. Then came along UAD2. And along with UAD2, that came with it the Apollos that we're pretty much used to seeing today. And these Apollos, while they were still considered expensive, they were certainly a lot more affordable than what was being found in your traditional pro studios, but it brought those sonic capabilities of the pro studios to the home and to the smaller studio, the smaller project studio. Now, remember at the beginning when I mentioned these trolls on the internet that said this would never happen? We need to talk about them for a second. So when those UAD2 Apollos came out, computers were still kind of in this growing pain area, but by the current generation of Apollos, computers had certainly caught up. And it certainly seems like for a handful of years at the very least, computers have been capable enough to run the DSP-based plugins likely on those computers and still have good latency. So over the course of that time, that obviously led to a lot of people who either couldn't afford an Apollo or who didn't want to make the plunge or who didn't want to pay for the plugins. It probably made a lot of those people a bit resentful, going, hey, what about us? And I think over time that probably led to a lot of those people just completely writing off UA as if they would never change or as if they'd never thought to maybe go down this path. Now, when Luna came out and I saw that they did the tape summing, the API summing, and the API console emulation, that really kind of made me think, hey, we're probably going to start to see some native at some point. And here we are today. So that's kind of like the long and short of how it came to be, where the trolls came from, and why this is such a big deal. But now we must talk about, what does the future hold? It's probably pretty tough to say what the future holds for UA. I mean, they've just recently come out with a new line of microphones, this whole new Spark venture, and the Volt line of hardware interfaces. So I'd say probably nothing's off the table. If I had to guess, I'd be willing to bet that they're probably going to model some new plugins. But again, I don't think anything's off the table at this point, and it's safe to say that they've probably got some sort of a grand vision here. So now let's talk about how these plugins work. How do they differ from the DSP-based plugins? In functionality, they are pretty much no different. They are a VST-based plugin, and largely speaking, they are just a direct port of their DSP-based plugin. You load it up in your DAW just like you would the DSP version, except this time it's going to run on your computer. Now I have to talk about the elephant in the room. They say that these are sonically no different, and while that may be true, there is one feature that I still think the Apollo kind of wins out on. It's called Unison. If you didn't know already, the Unison technology is what makes these Apollos so sought after and what has made those models of their preamps so sought after for many years. Unison is a technology that interacts physically with your mic preamp inside of the Apollo, and it follows the gain staging of the emulation of whatever hardware that may be, and physically changes the impedance on the mic pre. So it interacts with your microphone physically in the real world to get a more realistic emulation in the software world. Now, I don't think you could do that with native, but I'm gonna test that. Again, this is so important because it's physical electrical resistance going down the line. At least that's what was advertised with the Apollos. And now with the advent of the native plugins and the advertising that kind of suggests that they're the exact same, I kind of don't think they are, but we're gonna find out in a later video. So I say all that to say that I'm pretty sure that Unison might be the only functional difference between the lineup, and still a really big point of difference as to why you might want to go with an Apollo. But I'm not leaving it at that. I'm actually going to test this whole Unison thing. We're going to see what the UADx sounds like versus the regular UAD2. So be sure to subscribe for that, because it's either going to completely shatter the internet and the UAD trolls are going to be right and vindicated, or we're going to realize they were full of shit this whole time. They're probably just doing it for the clicks, to be honest. We're either going to find out that the Apollos could have been native this whole time, or we're going to find out that there really is something magical about the Apollo. So be sure to subscribe. So what about the new features? Are there really any new features of the plugins? Well, in short, yes. There's a new preset tagging system and a new preset menu system. I think that this feature is going to be greatly expanded upon in the future, and it's really going to make file management awesome, especially if you're building an album. You can start tagging the sounds and presets that you build for yourself. On that note, if you're new to the channel and you're a Logic user, I've just released a new channel strip preset pack for specifically UADx. So if you just picked that up and you're a Logic user, it's an awesome way to support the channel. It's a really quick way to get up and running with the new UADx platform. And again, it's a great way to support the channel. So go check that out at thestevekinney.com. Now, graphically speaking, again, these are kind of fresh facelifts for the UAD lineup. Same plugins, newer looking interfaces. Now, because the plugins are VST3, I think graphically there's supposed to be some sort of enhancement there. I can say between using the two, it does give a little bit of a different feel when you're kind of moving your mouse. It just seems different. I don't know really how else to describe it. If you're using a controller like the UF8, again, it just feels different. I'll leave it at that. I really would have loved to have seen some resizable GUI. It's not the biggest deal, it's not the end of the world, but hey, would have loved to have seen it. Now, sonically speaking, they do sound every bit as good as the UAD2 versions, at least with respect to non-Unison based tech, right? And even the ones that are Unison based tech, I think if you were to just pop them on in post, you're getting the same exact kind of audio quality you'd come to expect from UAD. So that's really cool for a number of reasons. Specifically, you know, there are a lot of really talented folks that don't have access to an Apollo or UAD, and now you do. Maybe you only have a Tascam interface, maybe you only have a Focusrite. I mean, let's face it, those interfaces are better than anything the Beatles had access to back in the day. So nobody has any excuses. It's really just about the tools that you use to create good music. So I'm really happy that all other creators now have access to some of the best sounding plugins that there are, and you're not required to have a really high-end interface to do so. And again, this kind of made a lot of sense to me, being that they came out with the Volt line, which is a really affordable line from UA, and you didn't have access to any of their plugins, so it only makes sense that they would go native in the future, right? Now, on that note, we have to talk about pricing. You either love it or you hate it, but they've entered the subscription model. It seems like everybody is going that route today. I don't know what it is. It must be some sort of special perks at the bank for all these businesses. I have no idea. Not a banker. These plugins come in at $20 a month if you do the monthly subscription, or it comes in at a yearly $150. Pretty good bang for the buck. I mean, that's the price of one of their normal plugins on a 50% discount. So, I mean, one plugin, entire collection, that's a good deal. And it's also worth mentioning, down in the frequently asked questions, it does say that if you own the UAD2 version, they're going to give you a license for Spark for that matching plugin. So if you own the 1073, you're going to get the 1073 UADx version. Now, how does that work? Well, first you're gonna have to go to the download section on UA's website. You're gonna wanna go ahead and get all of the latest updates for Luna, UAD 2, and that's gonna include the UAD Spark application. From there, you update your UAD drivers, you install the Luna update, and then you also install UA Connect, which is UA Spark. I don't know, it's a little weird. I think Connect might be something further down the line. Speculation. But that's how you access UAD Spark, is through UA Connect. Once the application's installed, you're gonna go ahead and sign into your account and link your iLok. And then Universal Audio is gonna deposit the license to your iLok account, and boom, there you go, you're ready to go. Load up some plugins in Logic, or load up some plugins in Luna, my favorite. Load up some plugins in Studio One. You got that native goodness now. And let's not forget, I didn't even really mention it yet, but the synths, Opal, goodness gracious, that's a really good sounding synth. Great job, UA. Absolutely love it. You crushed it. Now we got to answer a really, really important question. Who are these plugins really aimed for? Who are they really good for? Well, largely, I'd say pretty much everyone who's a music producer or a songwriter. It certainly is obvious that it's going to help out a lot of people who don't have access to Apollos or, you know, UAD cards. It really levels the playing field for all music producers to be able to have access to such good quality plugins. But even myself with an X8, a Twin, a Apollo Solo, you know, I already have this stuff, so why would I want it? Well, truthfully, it still expands upon the DSP that I already have. I can tell you wholeheartedly that loading a bunch of Studers that are DSP based, it's gonna eat up a lot of DSP really quickly. So being able to offload those things that I don't need the real-time processing for, that's really cool, which allows me to save the real-time processing for more mic pre-emulations when I'm tracking, etc. You get the idea. It's also really cool for mixdown. I mean, you know, I don't always want to bring my large Apollo or my Twin or my Solo with me. So, you know, in the future, as they port more over, it's going to be really cool to be able to just swap. You know, I could just go on the road and mix with just my laptop. And of course, people with smaller systems, like with the Apollo Solo, you know, again, you're really leveraging the benefits of the power of UAD2, but being able to mix without, I don't know, you guys get the point. You see where I'm going with here. So there's a lot of benefits for everybody. I think this has been a long time coming. UA has done a great job, and I'm sure they've been working really hard on this for a long time, and it had to be a top secret project for them. So great work, UA. You guys crush it all the time and constantly keep us on our feet. For everybody else, definitely check out UADx Spark. I think you guys are gonna absolutely love it. If you've never used UA before, their plugins are top notch. There's a lot of channels that have talked shit for a long time. Nothing really compares to how good these plugins really sound. So go check them out. They'll give you a trial period, so that's pretty cool. At the end of the day, this is a really exciting time for pretty much everyone. It's a completely level playing field now, regardless of Apollo this, Focusrite that, who cares? We're all gonna make good music. That's the goal. So while I'll definitely be diving into UADx in future videos, specifically the whole Unison versus native, this is where we're gonna have to wrap this video. I appreciate it if you've made it this far. It's kind of different than my normal videos. I usually like to show a lot more examples, but there was just so much kind of overview that I wanted to touch on before I dived into anything that kind of just wanted to hash it out with you guys. If there's something that I just completely missed, please leave it in the comments. We're one big community on this channel, and I appreciate every one of you who watch. I'm just like one of you guys. I like to make music, and I'm just here to share my knowledge. And again, if you want to get up and running quickly with UADx, if you've never used UA products before, check out my new Native Classics pack. It's available at my website, thestevekinney.com. It's an awesome way to support the channel so I can keep making videos like this for you guys. And again, subscribe to see that video on Unison versus native. Until then, guys, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching.